What's good, YouTube? Sensational Clancy'S here, and I'm back with another Clancy'S the Division Vendor Reset video. We're here for April 3rd, 2020's Vendor Reset. So let's get right into this to see what we got good for this week. Okay, so for our first gear items, we're going to head over to Camp Hudson. Here we got a small grip with 17% crit hit damage, 4.50% optimal range, and 2.50% stability. Okay, so for our next gear items, we're going to head over to the meat locker. Here, the weapons vendor has a Lova C with a gear score of 259. It has 19% enemy armor damage, and the talents this has is focused, sustained, and vicious. Okay, so for our next gear items, we're going to head over to the base operations. Here, the Dark Zone gear vendor has a first wave Vector 45 ACP with a gear score of 263. It has 22.50% crit hit chance. And the talents this has is Determined, Adept, and Unforgiven. Also here we got a prototype performance mod with 5% first aid, ally heal. For our next gear items, we're still at the base operations. Head over to the weapons vendor here, and we got a large suppressor FDE with 17% crit hit damage, 5% optimal range, and 5.50% headshot damage. For our next gear items, we're still at the base operations, and the gear vendor here has a prototype electronics mod with 256 electronics and 2,883 health. For our next gear items, we're still at the base operations. Head over to the advanced weaponry vendor, and here we got a classic FAL. If you like to run this weapon, it has a gear score of 270. It has 21% enemy armor damage, and the talents this has is Determined, Competent, and Brutal. Also here we got an M700 carbine with a gear score of 267. It has 158% headshot damage, and the talents this has is Ferocious, Meticulous, and Elevated. Also here we got a military M60E4 with a gear score of 276. It has 20% damage to targets out of cover, and the talents this has is Ferocious, Deadly, and Fierce. For our next gear items, we're still at the base operations. Head over to the special equipment vendor, and here we got a Liberator with a gear score of 268. It has 22% enemy armor damage, and the talents this has is Brutal, Fierce, and Intense. Also here we got a Historian with a gear score of 272. It has 160% headshot damage, and the talents this has is Destructive, Swift, and Historian repeats. Also here we got a Cassidy with a gear score of 260. It has 297% stagger, and the talents this has is Deadly, Dominant, and Boomstick. Also here we got a lightweight M4 with a gear score of 277. It has 19% enemy armor damage, and the talents this has is Intense, Focused, and Vicious. Also here we got a double barrel shotgun with a gear score of 272. It has 319% stagger, and the talents this has is Accurate, Unforgiven, and Destructive. Also here we got a first wave M1A with a gear score of 263. It has 160% headshot damage, and the talents this has is Fierce, Proficient, and Prepared. Also here we got an infantry MG5 with a gear score of 262. It has 21% damage to targets out of cover, and the talents this has is Determined, Prepared, and Self-Preserved. Also here we got a tactical vest with the talent Vigorous on there. It has a gear score of 273. The armor is 1,826. This roll for electronics 1,214. And the attributes this has is enemy armor damage, all resistance, and ammo capacity. Also here we got a Spec Ops pack with the talent Inventive on there. It has a gear score of 262. The armor is 1,150. This roll for firearms 1,175. And the attributes this has is crit hit damage and burn resistance. Also here we got an extended magazine with 110.50% magazine size, 4% crit hit damage, and 4.60% rate of fire. For our next gear items, we're still at the base operations. Head over to the special blueprints vendor, and here we got a snub nose Rhino blueprint, 256 gear score, a classic M60 blueprint with a 256 gear score, firearm knee pad blueprint with a gear score of 256, and a holster blueprint with a gear score of 256. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Kerman Station. Here the weapons vendor has an AUG A3 Para XS with a gear score of 272. It has 21% crit hit chance, and the talents this has is Adept, Accurate, and Competent. And also here we got an extended magazine with 112.50% magazine size, 4% crit hit damage, and 4.50% reload speed. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Camp Clinton. Here the special equipment vendor has a pecan. If you like to run this weapon, it has a gear score of 272. It has 21% damage to targets out of cover, and this one has the talents of Deadly, Predatory, and Pecan. Also here we got a Historian with a gear score of 272. It has 163% headshot damage, and the talents this has is Competent, Prepared, and Historian repeats. Also, we got a custom P416G3 with a gear score of 261. It has 20% enemy armor damage, and the talent list has is prepared, competent, and self-preserved. Also, here we got a tactical vest with the talent reckless on there. It has a gear score of 265. The armor is 1,860. Its roll for electronics 1,125. And the attributes this has is health, enemy armor damage, and ammo capacity. Also here we got a Spec Ops pack with the talent specialized on there. It has a gear score of 273. The armor is 1,262. Its roll for electronics 1,197. And the attributes this has is health and disrupt resistance. Also here we got an extended magazine with 111.50% magazine size, 4.50% reload speed, and 5.10% rate of fire. For our next gear items, we're still at Camp Clinton. Head over to the special blueprints vendor, and here we got a stamina mask blueprint with a gear score of 256. Also, we got a holster blueprint with a gear score of 256, and also we got a EXP-S3 holographic sight tan blueprint. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Dante's Run. Here, the gear vendor has a prototype performance mod with 4% sticky bomb damage. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Autumn's Hope. Here, the gear vendor has a tactical pack with the talent Relentless on there. It has a gear score of 268. The armor is 1,271. Its roll for stamina 1,161. And the attributes this has is stability and bleed resistance. And also here we got a prototype electronics mod with 244 electronics and 3% skill haste. For our next gear items, you want to head over to the ward. Here, the gear vendor has a gunslinger's vest with the talent Rapid on there. It has a gear score of 277. The armor is 1,915. Its roll for electronics 1,248. And the attributes it has is skill haste, enemy armor damage, and increased kill XP. And also here we got a prototype stamina mod with 204 stamina and 4% damage to elites. For our next gear items, you want to head over to the firewall. Here, the gear vendor has an operator mask with the talent Tenacious on there. It has a gear score of 271. The armor is 953. Its roll for stamina 1,201. And the attributes this has is skill power and burn resistance. And also here we got a prototype performance mod with 5% ballistic shield damage resilience. For our next gear items, you want to head over to West 34th Street checkpoint. Here, the Dark Zone vendor has an operator pack with the talent specialized on there. It has a gear score of 276. The armor is 1,238. Its roll for firearms 1,251. And the attributes we got is stability and burn resistance. And also here we got a prototype performance mod with 2% post crit hit chance. For our next gear items, you want to head over to West 39th Street checkpoint. Here, the Dark Zone vendor has a black market RPK-74E with a gear score of 267. It has 20% damage to targets out of cover. And the talent this has is prepared, brutal, and competent. And also here we got a prototype electronics mod with 254 electronics and 3,102 skill power. For our next gear items, we want to head to West 42nd Street checkpoint. Here, the Dark Zone vendor has a SOCOM MK20 SSR with a gear score of 272. It has 151% headshot damage. And the talents this has is vicious, unforgiving, and accurate. For our next gear items, you want to head over to West 46th Street checkpoint. Here, the Dark Zone vendor has a tactical pack with the talent specialized on there. It has a gear score of 266. The armor is 1,248. Its roll for electronics 1,114, and the attributes it has is skill power and ammo capacity. And also here we got Omega Rifle Suppressor with 18.50% headshot damage, 2.50% stability, and 3% crit hit chance. For our next gear items, you want to head over to West 53rd Street checkpoint. Here, the Dark Zone vendor has a tactical mask with the talent Tenacious on there. It has a gear score of 266. The armor is 863. Its roll for firearms 1,225. And the attributes this has is crit hit chance and increased kill XP. And also here we got an extended magazine with 117% magazine size, 3% crit hit chance, and 4% crit hit damage. For our next gear items, you want to head over to East 64th Street checkpoint. Here, the Dark Zone gear mod vendor has a prototype performance mod with 4% mobile cover damage resilience. For our next gear items, you want to head over to East 58th Street checkpoint. Here, the Dark Zone gear vendor has a Spec Ops mask with the talent Enduring on there. It has a gear score of 275. The armor is 959. Its roll for firearms 1,242. And the attributes this has is exotic damage resilience and disorient resistance. And also here we got a Spec Ops pack with the talent Inventive on there. It has a gear score of 272. The armor is 1,266. Its roll for stamina 1,245. And the attributes this has is crit damage and burn resistance. And also here we got some tactical gloves with the talent Savaged on there. It has a gear score of 268. The armor is 862. This roll for firearms 1,267. And the attributes this has is enemy armor damage, assault rifle damage, and crit hit damage. For our next gear items, you want to head to the Park Ave checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone weapons vendor has a classic AK-47. It has a gear score of 277. It has 18% enemy armor damage. And the talents this has is responsive, destructive, and adept. Also here we got an M700 tactical with a gear score of 262. It has 143% headshot damage. And the talents this has is brutal, predatory, and elevated. And also here we got a tactical M249 Para with a gear score of 268. It has 21% damage to targets out of cover. And the talents this has is competent, deadly, and prepared. For our next gear items, you want to head over to East 46th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has an operator vest with the talent Reckless on there. It has a gear score of 260. The armor is 1,706. This roll for electronics 1,114. And the attributes this has is health on kill, and ammo capacity. And also here we got a prototype performance mod with 247 firearms and 3,074 health. For our next gear items, you want to head over to East 42nd Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a Marine Super 90 with a gear score of 268. It has 298 stagger. And the talents this has is adept, self-preserved, and fierce. And I'll just mention this because I'm here. We got a prototype performance mod with 2.50% smart cover damage resilience. For our next gear items, you want to head over to East 40th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a custom M44 with a gear score of 267. It has 160% headshot damage. And the talents this has is ferocious, unforgiving, and prepared. For our next gear items, you want to head over to East 34th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has some spec out gloves with the talent Savaged on there. It has a gear score of 277. The armor is 977. Its roll for stamina 1,226. And the attributes this has is assault rifle damage, skill haste, and enemy armor damage. Also here we got a small grip red with 18% crit hit damage, 2.50% stability, and 4.50% reload speed. For our next gear items, you want to head over to East 31st Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has some gunslinger gloves with the talent Savaged on there. It has a gear score of 275. The armor is 949. Its roll for firearms 1,201. And the attributes this has is crit chance, pistol damage, and LMG damage. For our next gear items, you want to head over to DZ2 Safe Room. Here the Dark Zone gear vendor has a tactical vest with the talent Vigorous on there. It has a gear score of 271. The armor is 1,944. Its roll for electronics 1,153. And the attributes this has is health on kill, health, and ammo capacity. Also here we got an operator pack with the talent Relentless on there. It has a gear score of 269. The armor is 1,162. Its roll for firearms 1,207. And the attributes this has is health and bleed resistance. And again, we got some gunslinger gloves with the talent Savaged on there. It has a gear score of 276. The armor is 1,000. Its roll for stamina 1,148. And the attributes this has is health on kill, assault rifle damage, and crit hit damage. For our next gear items, you want to head over to DZ3 Safe Room. Here the Dark Zone weapons vendor has a tactical SA-58. If you like this weapon, it has a gear score of 280. It has 20% enemy armor damage. And the talents this has is vicious, sustained, and brutal. And also here we got a custom M870 MCS with a gear score of 269. It has 316.50% stagger. And the talents this has is ferocious, fierce, and commanding. For our next gear items, you want to head over to DZ5 Safe Room. Here the Dark Zone weapon mod vendor has a Omega rifle suppressor with 18.50% headshot damage, 2% accuracy, and 4% crit hit damage. For our next gear items, you want to head over to DZ8 Safe Room. Here the Dark Zone gear vendor has a Spec Ops armor with the talent Vigorous on there. It has a gear score of 267. The armor is 1,787. Its roll for stamina 1,213. And the attributes this has is health, skill haste, and increased kill XP. Also here we got a tactical pack with the talent Inventive on there. It has a gear score of 272. The armor is 1,262. Its roll for electronics 1,200. And the attributes this has is stability and disrupt resistance. Alright everybody, that's it for our Tom Clancy's The Division Vendor Reset video for April 3rd, 2020's Vendor Reset. I hope everybody who tuned into it found them something that they needed. Smash that like button if you hadn't. Smash out on that sub button too if you hadn't. I appreciate that support. And I will holler at y'all with the next one, everybody. Take care. Peace.